Mitch Albom, author of Tuesdays with Morrie, The Stranger in the Lifeboat, a novel. The Stranger in the Lifeboat. The Stranger in the Lifeboat, a novel, Mitch Albom. To Janie, Trisha, and Connie, who show me every day the stunning power of belief. The Stranger in the Lifeboat, Chapter 1. C. When we pulled him from the water, he didn't have a scratch on him. That's the first thing I noticed. The rest of us were all gashes and bruises, but he was unmarked. The smooth almond skin and thick dark hair matted by seawater. He was bare-chested, not particularly muscular, maybe 20 years old, and his eyes were pale blue. The color you imagine the ocean to be when you dream of a tropical vacation, not the endless gray waves that surrounded this crowded lifeboat waiting for us like an open grave. Forgive me for such despair, my love. It's been 3 days since the Galaxy sank. No one has come looking for us. I try to stay positive, to believe rescue is near, but we are short on food and water. Sharks have been spotted. I see surrender in the eyes of many on board. The words, "we're going to die," have been uttered too many times. If that is to be, if this is indeed my end, then I am writing to you in the pages of this notebook, Annabelle, in hopes you might somehow read them after I am gone. I need to tell you something, and I need to tell the world as well. I could begin with why I was on the Galaxy that night, or Dobie's plan, or my deep sense of guilt at the yacht exploding, even though I cannot be sure of what happened. But for now, the story must begin with this morning. When we pulled the young stranger from sea, he wore no life jacket, nor was he holding on to anything when we spotted him bobbing in the waves. We let him catch his breath, and from our various perches in the boat, we introduced ourselves. Lambert, the boss, spoke first, saying, "Jason Lambert, I own the Galaxy." Then came Nevin, the tall Brit, who apologized that he could not rise for a proper welcome, having gashed his leg trying to escape the sinking vessel. Jerry just nodded and balled up the line she had used to tug the man in. Yanis offered a weak handshake. Nina mumbled hi. Mrs. Legree, the woman from India, said nothing. She didn't seem to trust the newcomer. Jean Phillip, the Haitian cook, smiled and said, "Welcome, brother," but kept a palm on the shoulder of his sleeping wife, Bernadette, who was wounded from the explosion. Badly wounded, I believe. The little girl we call Alice, who hasn't spoken since we found her clinging to a desk chair in the ocean, remained silent. "I went last, Benji," I said. "My name is Benji." For some reason, my voice caught in my throat. We waited for the stranger to respond. "He just looked at us, doe-eyed," Lambert said. He's probably in shock," Nevin yelled. "How long were you in the water?" Perhaps thinking a raised voice would snap him into his senses. When he didn't answer, Nina touched his shoulder and said, "Well, thank the Lord we found you." Which is when the man finally spoke. "I am the Lord," he whispered. Land. The inspector put out his cigarette. His chair creaked. It was already hot on this moonlit morning, and his starched white shirt stuck to his sweaty back. His temples were throbbing from a hangover headache. He gazed at the thin, bearded man who had been waiting for him when he arrived at the police station. "Let's start again," the inspector said. It was Sunday. He had been in bed when the call came. "A man is here. He says he's found a raft from that American yacht that blew up." The inspector mumbled a curse. His wife, Patricia, groaned and rolled over on her pillow. "What time did you get home last night?" she mumbled. "Late." "How late?" He dressed without answering her. He made instant coffee, poured it into a styrofoam cup, and kicked the door frame as he left the house, banging his big toe. It still hurt. "My name is Jordi LaFleur," he said now, sizing up the man across the desk. "I am the chief inspector for the island, and your name is?" "Rom, Inspector." "Do you have a last name, Rom?" "Yes, Inspector." LaFleur sighed. "What is it?" "Roche, Inspector." LaFleur wrote it down, then lit another cigarette. He rubbed his head. He needed aspirin. "So you found a raft, Rom?" "Yes, Inspector." "Where?" "Marguerite Bay." "When?" "Yesterday." LaFleur looked up to see the man staring at a desk photo of LaFleur and his wife, swinging their young daughter over a beach towel. "Is this your family?" Rom asked. "Don't look at that," LaFleur snapped. "Look at me. This raft. How did you know it was from the Galaxy?" It's written on the inside. And you just found it washed up on the beach? Yes, Inspector. Nobody with it? No, Inspector. LaFleur was sweating. He moved the desk fan closer. The story was plausible. All kinds of things washed up on the North Shore. Suitcases, parachutes, drugs, fishing contraptions that swept into the currents and floated across the North Atlantic. Nothing was too strange to roll in with the tide, but a raft from the Galaxy? That would be a major event. The huge luxury yacht had sunk last year 50 miles from Cape Verde off the western African coast and made news around the world, mostly because of all the rich and famous people who'd been on board. None of them were found. LaFleur rocked back and forth. The raft didn't inflate itself? Maybe the authorities were wrong. Maybe someone had survived the Galaxy tragedy, at least briefly. Okay, Rom, he said, snuffing out a cigarette. Let's go take a look. See. I am the Lord. What do you say to that, my love? Maybe under normal conditions you laugh or make a wisecrack. You're the Lord? Buy the drinks. But alone in the middle of this ocean, thirsty and desperate, well, it unnerved me, to be honest. What did he just say, Nina whispered. He said he was the Lord, Lambert scoffed. You got a first name, Lord? Giannis asked. I have many names, the stranger said. His voice was calm but husky, almost hoarse. And you've been swimming for 3 days, Mrs. Ligori injected. That's impossible. She's right, Jerry said. The water temperature is 67 degrees. You can't live in that for 3 days. Jerry is the most experienced sea person among us. She was an Olympic swimmer when she was younger and has that take charge tone, confident, curt, and tolerant of stupid questions. That makes people pay heed. Did you float in something, Nevinyad? For Christ's sake, Nevin, Giannis said. He's not deaf. The stranger looked at Giannis when he said, for Christ's sake, and Giannis closed his mouth as if trying to suck the words back in. What's your real story, Mr. Lambert said. I am here, the stranger said. Why are you here? Nina asked. Haven't you been calling me? We glanced at one another. We are a pathetic-looking lot. Faces blistered by the sun, clothes crusted by salt water. We can't fully stand up without falling into someone, and the floor smells of rubber, glue, and vomit from our retching. It is true, most of us at some point thrashing in the waves that first night or staring at the empty horizon in the days that followed have cried out for divine intervention. Please, Lord, help us, God. Is that what this new man meant? Haven't you been calling me? As you know, Annabelle, I have struggled with faith very much of my life. I was a dutiful altar boy, many Irish kids, but the church and I parted company years ago. What happened with my mother? What happened with you? Too much disappointment, not enough comfort still. I never considered what I would do if I called for the Lord and he actually appeared before me. Is there any water you can share? The man asked. God is thirsty, Lambert said, laughing. Great. Anything else? Perhaps to eat? This is foolish, Mrs. Langry grumbled. He's obviously playing games. No, Nina yelled abruptly, her face contorting like a denied child. Let him talk. She spun toward the man. Are you here to save us? His voice softened. I can only do that, he said, when everyone here believes I am who I say I am. No one moved. You could hear the smack of the sea against the boat sides. Finally, Jerry, who was too practical for talk like this, surveyed the group like an annoyed school teacher. Well, buddy, she said, you let us know when that happens. Until then, we better just adjust our food rations. News. Reporter. This is Valerie Cortez aboard the Galaxy, the spectacular yacht owned by Jason Lambert. The billionaire businessman has assembled some of the biggest names in the world for a week-long adventure, and he's here with us now. Hello, Jason. Lambert. Welcome, Valerie. Reporter. You've called the extravaganza the grand idea. Why? Lambert. Because everyone on the ship has done something grand, something to shape their industry, their country, maybe even the planet. We have technology leaders, business leaders, political leaders, entertainment leaders. They're big idea people. Reporter. Movers and shakers like yourself? Lambert. Well, I don't know about that. Reporter. And you brought them for what reason? Lambert. Valerie, it's a 200 million yacht cruise. I think a good time is possible. Reporter. Obviously. Lambert. No, seriously. Idea people need to be around other idea people. They spur each other to change the world. Reporter. So this is like the World Economy Forum with Davos, Switzerland. Lambert. Right, but a more fun version on water. Reporter. And you hope many grand ideas come out of this trip? Lambert. That and some quality hangovers. Reporter. Hangovers, did you say? Lambert. What's life without a party, Valerie? Am I right? C. Lambert throws up. He is on his knees, heaving over the side. His fat midsection protrudes from his t-shirt and his hairy at the navel. Some of the vomit blows back in his face and he groans. It is evening. The sea is choppy. Others have been sick as well. The winds are fierce. Maybe it will rain. We've had no rain since the galaxy sank. Looking back, we were still hopeful that first morning, shocked at what happened but grateful to be alive. The 10 of us huddled inside the lifeboat. We spoke about rescue plans. We scanned the horizon. Who here has children? Mrs. Lowry suddenly asked, as if starting a card game. I myself have 2. Grown now. 3. Nevin offered. 5. Lambert said. Got you beat. But how many wives? Nevin poked. That wasn't the question, Lambert said. I've been too busy, Giannis said. Not yet for me, Nina said. Have you got a husband? Mrs. Legree asked. Do I need one? Mrs. Legree laughed. Well, I did. Anyhow, you won't have any problem in that department. We have 4 sons, Jean Philip announced. He rested a hand on his sleeping wife's shoulder. Bernadette and I, 4 good boys. He turned to me. And you, Benji? No kids, Jean Philip. Do you have a wife? I hesitated. Yes. Well then, you can start when we get home. He flashed a broad smile and the group laughed a little, but as the day went on, the waves grew bumpier and we all got seasick. By evening, the mood had changed. It felt as if we'd been out here a week. I remember seeing little Alice sleeping in Nina's lap and Nina's face streaked with tears. Mrs. Legree grabbed her hand as Nina whimpered, what if they can't find us? Well, if they can't, without a compass, Jerry has been trying to chart our course by the stars. She thinks we are heading southwest away from Cape Verde and farther into the wide, empty Atlantic. That is not good. Meanwhile, to avoid direct sunlight, we spent hours tucked under a stretched canopy that covers more than half of the boat. We must sit inches from one another, stripped down, sweaty, foul-smelling. It's a far cry from the galaxy, even if some of us were guests on the luxury vessel and some of us workers. Here we're all the same, half naked and scared. The grand idea of the voyage that brought us all together was Lambert's brainchild. He told invitees that they were here to change the world. I never believed that. The yacht size, its multiple decks, the swimming pool, gym, the ballroom. That's what he wanted them to remember. As for workers like Nina, Bernadette, Jean Philip, and me, we were only there to serve. I have labored under Jason Lambert for 5 months now, and I have never felt so invisible. Staff on the Galaxy are forbidden to make eye contact with guests, nor can we eat in their presence. Meanwhile, Lambert does what he wants, barreling into the kitchen, using his fingers to pick at the food, stuffing his face as the workers lower their heads. Everything about his screams gluttony. From his flashy rings to his obese midsection, I could see why Dobie wanted him dead. I turned away from Lambert's puking and studied the new arrival who was sleeping outside the canopy with his mouth slightly open. He is not particularly striking for a man who claims to be the Almighty. His eyebrows are thick, his cheeks are flabby, he has a wide chin and small ears partly covered by the dark nest of hair. I admit I felt a chill when he said those things yesterday. I am here. Have you not been calling me? But later, when Jerry handed her our packets of peanut butter crackers, he ripped open the plastic and devoured the contents so quickly. I thought he'd choke. I doubt God would ever get that hungry, certainly not for peanut butter and crackers. Still, for the moment, he has distracted us. Earlier, as he slept, we gathered to whisper our theories. Do you think he's delirious? Of course! He probably banged his head. There's no way he survived 3 days treading water. What's the longest a man can do that? I read about a guy who lasted 28 hours. Still not 3 days. He honestly thinks he's God. He had no life jacket. Maybe he came from another boat. If there were another boat, we would have seen it. Finally, Nina spoke up. Since she was a Galaxy hairstylist born in Ethiopia, with her high cheekbones fluttering dark locks, she restrains a certain elegance, even here in the middle of the sea. Has anyone considered the least likely explanation, she asked. Which is, Giannis said, that he's telling the truth, that he's come in our home hour of need. Eyes darted from one to the next, then Lambert started laughing, a deep, dismissive cackle. Oh yes, that's how we all picture God, floating like seaweed, until you pull him into the boat. Come on. Did you look at him? He's like some island kid who fell off his surfboard. We shifted our legs. No one said much after that. I looked up at the pale white moon, which hung large in the sky. Do some of us think it's possible that this stranger's new arrival is actually the Lord incarnate? I can only speak for myself. No, I do not. LaFleur drove the man called Ram to the north shore of the island. He tried to make conversation, but Ram answered with polite deflections. Yes, Inspector, and no, Inspector. LaFleur eyed the glove compartment where he kept a small flask of whiskey. You live up by St. John's, LaFleur said. Ram half nodded. Where do you go liming? Ram looked at him blankly. Liming, chilling, hanging out. No response. They drove past a rum shop and a boarded-up disco cafe with turquoise shutters hanging loosely off their hinges. What about surfing? You do any surfing? Bransby Point, Trance Bay? I don't care much for the water. Come on, man, LaFleur laughed. You're on an island. Ram looked straight ahead. The inspector gave up. He reached for another cigarette. Through his rolled-down window, he glanced back at the mountains. 24 years before, Moneret's volcano, Sulphurous Hills, erupted after centuries of silence, covering the entire southern part of the island in mud and ash. The capital was destroyed. Lava smoothed the airport. Just like that, the nation's economy evaporated into dark smoke. 2/3 of the population fled Montserrat within a year, mostly to England, where they were given emergency citizen status. Even now, the island's southern half remains uninhabited, an ash-covered exclusion zone of abandoned towns and villas. LaFleur glanced at his passenger, who was tapping annoyingly on the door handle. He thought about calling Patrice, apologizing for this morning, leaving so abruptly. Instead, he reached across Ram's chest and mumbled, "Excuse me," and he popped open the glove compartment, removing the whiskey flask. "You want some?" he asked. "No, thank you, Inspector." "Don't drink?" "Not anymore." "How come?" "I drank to forget things." And I kept remembering them. LaFleur paused and took a swig. They drove in silence the rest of the way.